Hey y'all, Chelsea and Danny here.
Enjoy this episode of Today's Homeowner here on YouTube.
This week we've got a project that's really going to raise the roof.
Today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford. Real projects for real homeowners with real solutions. Information and inspiration on improving your home from professional remodeler Danny Lipford.
Welcome to the show. This week we're in Pensacola, Florida, in a historic district called North Hill. And we're about to show you a project that's a little different than most projects we feature on our show. You can see the house behind me is undergoing quite a bit of repair work now, and one of the main components of the work involves restructuring the entire roof structure. But instead of building it in place way up there, they decided to build it here on the ground and lift it into place. We'll show you how that's going to take place and talk with the homeowners to show you the passion they have behind this project, all in this week's show. Welcome back to the show. Now, even looking at the house in this condition, you can tell what a beautiful house it'll be once it's restored. Now, to tell you a little bit more about how it got in this condition, let's get inside and talk with the owners, Ray and Hilda Jones. Well, guys, there's definitely a lot of work to be done in here. You need to tell our viewers exactly how it got in this condition.
Well, we bought the house in 1975. It was 4 apartments. We restored it to one family again and enjoyed it all those years. But then end of January 2002, we had a devastating fire.
Oh, that's everybody's nightmare.
Oh, yes, driving up and seeing your home in flames, your neighbors out there in the street, and every fire truck in town there was something I hope no one else ever has to endure.
I know that's a tough time to go through, and I've heard a lot about that with people that have experienced that, but you have some bright sides there that happened the day or so after that, I understand.
Oh, absolutely. We couldn't even get into the house until about 7:30 the next morning. Fire trucks pulled out, and within minutes, there were neighbors, there were friends that came, and we were really in shock. They are the ones that said, let's get out this debris to save the floors, let's carry your furniture out there. And so we had up to 100 people, at least 35 to 40 at any time during that day, helping, working. My church volunteered food for the crew, the whole bit.
Great.
So it was a wonderful affirmative experience, and it continued for weeks and weeks. Still now, people are so supportive, and that's what has given us the courage and the strength to pursue this sort of mission impossible. Yeah.
I'm sure, and I guess also a lot of times when people are in this situation, the insurance dealings are not so pleasant. How did that go?
That actually went well. They showed up and very responsive to us, understood what had happened, and actually made a settlement with the house very, very quickly. So, however, as you can imagine, the insurance was more for what the house would be worth if you sold it,
right,
and you go back into restoration of a historic home.
Okay.
And then that's where the challenges come in.
So you had to get a little creative and become the general contractor.
Yes, yes.
and the chief laborers.
Okay.
Well.
And with the help of our architect and friends and contractors, we have figured out ways to shave things off, to use what did survive, and the most creative thing was the roof. The roof was going to be $200,000 alone just to do the roof.
Wow.
Our architect came up with the idea of building it on the ground and then lifting it up onto the house at a fraction, about somewhere between a fifth and a fourth of the cost, the original cost. And that's what really made the difference. We were ready otherwise to call in the bulldozers, because we just simply couldn't do it any other way.
Now, the interior, when you finish up the restoration this time, will it be similar to what it was before?
It will be similar, but with some improvements, based more on modern life, a little more open floor plan, a little more convenient. Right over here used to be a guest bedroom, and now it's going to be my kitchen, which will now be conveniently located right off the dining room instead of being way in the back of the house.
In the back of the house, which is the way they did it, of course, in those days, 103 years ago.
Oh, yeah, and I bet a few closets are going to find their way in.
Yes, closets, bathrooms, you bet. And of course, it also gives us a chance to update our mechanicals, use some of the more state-of-the-art features that are available now that were not even a few years ago.
I see.
So at the same time retaining the charm of the old wood. As you can see, the floors, these wonderful heart pine floors, we have every reason to believe most of it, the majority of it, will be salvageable. And other trim, mantles, doors that have been removed for right now, but will be put back in place.
Oh, that's beautiful. I can't wait to see that. Now, I notice the staircase is still in shape structurally. Can we make that stair?
Absolutely.
Well, the treads look pretty good on the staircase, but this handrail is going to have to be replaced.
Well, fortunately, we have a local mill worker who's going to replicate the entire staircase, the wainscoting, the balusters, the balustrades, and all.
That's great. Using, you mentioned some type
He's
of
going
cypress.
to use the synchro cypress. It's been in the water for 103 years as well. So
Oh,
it's the
okay.
same age as the house.
All right, great, great. Well, I love the view up here, but I know that's about to change.
Yes, yes, the roof will come on. We will not have this natural skylight anymore.
Well, we're about to show you how we're going to get the roof structure on top of the house when we come back after our simple solution.
Get ready to review your fix-it list as Danny and home repair expert Joe Trewini show you this week's simple solution. Brought to you by DuPont Tyvek. Build it once, build it right.
If you have a belt sander in your collection of tools and you're only using it for wood, Joe has a suggestion for you.
You're right, Danny. A belt sander is a very versatile woodworking tool, but you can also use it to sharpen metal tools. And what I did here is I have a 3 by 21 inch belt sander with an 80 grit belt on it. And I've clamped it upside down to my work table using a clamp in the front handle and the rear handle.
But now I've seen a lot of these belt sanders of different models that have handles on top. It would make it real difficult to do.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to clamp it flat to a work table, but you could put it in a vise and it would
Okay,
hold it.
all right.
All right, now the first thing I want to do is put on your safety goggles in case any sparks fly off of there. And then you just lock on the trigger and slowly move the tool, holding it at a constant angle, to maintain the same angle back and forth. Now, just as an example, you see, Dan, with just 3 light passes, how it's polished that edge.
Yeah, you can see a big difference
It's already
in that.
starting to sharpen it. And I'll just do the other side.
Now, what about some other tools? I'm sure anything shovels or hose or
Yeah.
anything like that would work well.
Yeah, or cold chisels, or if you want to retool the tip of a screwdriver. My favorite, though, is putty knives, which invariably get coated with putty and paint. And I'll show you how quickly you can clean up this, and it comes out like new. You do the metal blade and the wooden handle.
Now, this is the day the homeowners here have really looked forward to, the day we're going to raise the roof. Now, over the last few days, the engineers and the crane operators have worked hard in putting all the cables together, all the I-beams, checking everything, because this is really a one-shot deal. Now, this has also generated a tremendous amount of interest here in the Pensacola area. And behind us here, several hundred people have gathered to see this unique project come together. And you're about to see it next.
Ray and Hilda christen the roof structure with a bottle of champagne before it takes flight, and the roof slowly rises from the concrete blocks it's been resting on for weeks. This crane has a 300-ton capacity, so the 21-ton structure offers little challenge from a weight standpoint, but with a 2,000 square foot base and a height of over 20 feet, it's cumbersome to say the least. When the roof is high enough, they begin moving it over the house until it roughly lines up with the outside walls. Workers inside the house guide the crane operator to lower the roof down to within a few feet of the top plate. 2x6 struts that were nailed on while the roof was on the ground will guide the roof into place as it's lowered. After a few last-minute adjustments, the roof is in place, the rigging is loosened up, and the architect, George Denny, congratulates the crew.
Well, George, you certainly seem a little more relieved now than you were earlier this morning.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about the project coming together. We spent a lot of time worrying through the details, and you know, we had a whale of a good crew here, and so it all happened right according to plan.
That's good. The weather was good. Plenty of people around to see all of it take place. Now, I understand you were really instrumental in suggesting the whole concept of building the roof here on the ground instead of way up on top of the roof. Why is that?
After the house had burned and the Joneses went through this process of trying to get their life back together, and one of the elements that they had to resolve was the insurance costs and how much they might have available to rebuild a house. Part of that, as you know, it has to do with cost estimates to replace the building. And they called me in at the kind of near the very end when they thought they were going to have to tear the house down. And I looked at it and realized that the one large single item that struck me was just the replacement cost of the roof.
Right.
The roof was originally built, as a heavily stick frame structure, and I suspect that I wasn't involved in that, but I suspect that the estimate was based on a replacement stick-for-stick replacement of the old style.
Sure.
But we used an engineered truss system. They're inherently strong, lighter, and the fact that they had this enormous side yard and backyard, it just kind of struck me when I saw that. I said, wow, this would be a great opportunity just to do something like this.
Yeah, it makes good sense, and it certainly worked flawlessly this morning. I guess the next step is to really make the roof an intricate part of the house by all the strapping that's necessary there. I guess that'll take a little while.
Right. The City of Pensacola, the building department determined that all we had to demonstrate was that we could meet the requirements for connecting the new work to the old house. They felt that since the house was 100 years old and had gone through all the hurricanes that have been in Pensacola since that time, that it wasn't going to go anywhere. So the truss manufacturers provide us with calculations about what kind of connector strength we have to provide at every point that the roof touches the plates. And so Brian Smith, our framer, will be in there starting to make those connections today.
Well, I know he's another one that's very relieved and an interesting fella to talk with.
Well, now that it's up here, we got to secure it with hurricane ties, which is a normal thing we do in all houses. But this is a little different that we put it all together first. We have a couple 100 and so metal straps to put on it and tie it down. We did a lot of extra blocking. We blocked all the seams in the plywood, nailed them. We also glued every bit of plywood on the house and on the roof. We had to build chimneys with 4x4 supports. That's something completely different. We've got this cable across the top, and that's supporting, that held the two outside gables from sagging during the lift. Now, the biggest challenge for me was to get it laid out on the steel framework so that it would match the house when it got up here, because they're 10 feet, 8 to 10 feet away from the walls. And in order to get all the same measurements on the outside and then mark it on the steel to where the trusses will sit, and as we see it, set pretty good up here now, so fairly relieved.
While Brian and his crew break down the steel frame into sections to remove it from the house, we'll take a look at this week's best new product.
Now let's join Danny at the Home Center to check out the best new products. Brought to you by the Home Depot.
There are many products that we have in our home that have started out being used in commercial buildings. Now, we're all familiar with the exit signs that has the emergency lighting that in the event of a power outage when you're in a public building, the lights will come on to show you where the exit is. Now, something similar is now available for residential use from Lithonia Lighting. It's called the Quantum Series. It's a variety of different type of emergency lighting models that allow you to mount this right to the wall of, say, a hallway or a staircase, and then it has a cord that plugs right into a regular electrical outlet. Now, in the event of a power outage, these lights will come on for up to 90 minutes. And because it's plugged into the outlet, when the power comes back on, it'll recharge the battery that's mounted or located right in the housing here. Now, they're available in a variety of different models ranging from $32 to $60, and most of them have the adjustable lights on them so that you can put the light right where you need it. Now, as far as maintenance, there's almost no maintenance needed here at all other than to push the test button every now and then to make sure the battery's working properly. And then about every 6 to 8 years, you'll need to replace the battery to make sure that it'll work well the next time the power goes out. But if you think about the safety of your family and the comfort level of your family, they'll certainly feel more comfortable having something like this in the hallway. With the roof all in place and all strapped down, the work could really move along, and it really has over the past 3 or 4 weeks. Now, they're in the process of working on securing a curved beam section right to the wall so that they can later build the porch roof all along the front of the house. Now, the original beam was in pretty bad shape and had to be completely reconstructed here on the job, and just this morning they raised it and put it in place, and they're in the process now really securing it tightly to the wall. Now, they also have taken care of a lot of work along the side porch here with the new ceiling as well as the roof, and just a few more columns, and they'll be ready for the painter to be out on the job. Now, the painter's been out on the job earlier to paint some new siding that had to be replaced that matched the original cypress siding. All of that's done, and it's really coming together outside, and simultaneously inside, a lot of work's going on. With the carpentry advanced as much as it is on the inside, we were able to have our electrician out and completely rewired the entire house. Now, this is always a good idea if you're doing an extensive renovation to completely rewire the house, because that'll save you a lot on your insurance rates. Also, our plumbing contractor replaced all the water and drain lines, and in the process installed a on-demand hot water system that works in conjunction with the new heating system being installed, so that energy efficiency is certainly on the minds of these homeowners. Now, along those same lines, the insulation that's being installed in this house is a foam expanding type insulation that has really filled the voids very well of all of the walls as well as the attic area. Now, another thing, as far as energy efficiency, all brand new windows that really match very closely the existing windows in the home. So these will certainly prove to help on that energy efficiency as well. Now, something that's not out on the job that was here before was the original staircase in the house. Now, it was so badly damaged by the fire that it's being completely rebuilt by a local millwork shop. Now, some of the original pieces will be used with the exception of the old treads. Now, they're in great shape, but the homeowners plan on having these planed down to look almost brand new and used on a new second staircase. Now, around this staircase is quite a combination of wood. On this side, you have some of the original framing on the house. Over here, all new framing. And then over here, you have some white painted wood that actually is some of the original wood, but had a little bit of charred or burned smell to it. This will encapsulate that smell so that you won't smell that later on when everything's finished. Now, inside, a lot of architectural designs, like the curved archways we have here, will really make the interior of this house look great once it's completed. Now, the homeowners are acting as their own general contractor, so it may take a little bit longer to take care of the interior, but they're certainly saving a lot of money on their budget. Outside will be finished very soon.
Now let's go outside for Around the Yard with Danny and lawn and garden expert Tricia Craven-Worley. Brought to you by TimberTech Composite Decking. Less work, more life.
Now, I know this won't surprise you, but I don't know a lot about plants, but what I do know, plants need water.
You're right, Danny. They do need water, whether they're in the ground or in containers. They need water.
And I guess up high like this and out in the sun, it's going to really have a lot of evaporation too.
When the plants are not in the ground and in pots like this, evaporation is definitely a consideration.
And with it being elevated like this, trying to put a hose up here, I can see where you could get pretty wet.
Yeah, you'd get wet that way. And also, I have this really cute little pot here, but my watering can at home is much bigger than this. And if you see, if I try to go up here with this, it is very, very awkward. I run the risk of getting wet, or maybe getting you wet too.
I can see that happening.
But you know what, Danny? I have a really simple solution. A simple kitchen baster. All we want to do is suction some water out of whatever container, and then reach up here very easily and put some water in your container.
And I guess you would be able to kind of get an idea of how much water you're feeding the plants by the increments of measurement on there.
You're right. There are measuring marks on the side of the baster, and if somebody's really concerned about how much they're putting in, this would be a great way to measure that.
Okay, good.
You know, there's another really good use for this too, and that's on indoor plants. Indoor plants sometimes don't like to get their feet wet, and especially something like an African violet, you can stick it right near the roots and get the water to the source without getting the leaves wet.
That sounds great. A restoration like this takes a lot of time because there's so many elements to consider. It's good that we have some patient homeowners here with Ray and Hilda, because there's a number of other things that have to be completed before they'll be able to move in. Now, I hope you enjoyed hearing their story and seeing how they've overcome a number of their remodeling challenges. Until next week, I'm Danny Lipford. We'll see you then. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Today's Homeowner. And don't forget to comment, like, and hit the bell icon so that we can notify you when new videos are posted.
And don't go anywhere, click around and continue the home improving fun.